Well, if you believe in a one-world utopia, then you would cede control of all facets of our lives, right? Military, banking, and of course, the information superhighway to a global governing body. Well, on October 1st, the U.S. is set to hand over control of the Internet to a sort of United Nations, if you will. The web now will be open to influences from countries like China, Russia, Iran, which, of course, already censor the Internet in their own country. So can this globalist nightmare be stopped?
A few thoughts now on the states versus Obama. 4 state attorneys general are now suing the Obama administration to stop the transfer of Internet oversight, saying the move threatens online freedom of expression, of enterprise, of speech. The suit comes just days before this administration wants the United States to relinquish control of the Internet's domain name system. And that deadline is midnight, October 1st. Congress failed to delay the transfer, so now Arizona, Nevada, Oklahoma, and the state of Texas have stepped up to stop the move and to stop President Obama. Of course, states have often found themselves in this administration forced to take matters into their own hands because this administration has acted so often well beyond its constitutional powers and has failed to enforce federal laws as well, including, of course, immigration laws.
Contagion. The definition in economics and finance is contagion can be explained as a situation where a shock and peculiar economy or a region spreads out and affects others, like something going from Europe to America. Stocks today, though, held up pretty early. In fact, we were consolidating Wednesday's move when a report circulated that hedge funds had begun to cut their ties with Deutsche Bank. Meanwhile, the bank continues to voice confidence. It says it's going to weather this storm and it won't need any government intervention. But we heard all of this before. Remember back in 2007 when none of those Wall Street giants needed help until they did. Well, the street had to put on a brave face then, and it's been putting on a brave face lately, too. But with respect to contagion, should this giant German bank go through an even deeper crisis, it's going to be worrisome. We saw today's knee-jerk reaction. It proves that beneath the calm, there are memories of Lehman. There are memories of Bear Stearns and how our own banking system collapsed.
There are mobile wallets, merchant apps, and old-fashioned debit and credit cards. So should you cash in on going cash-free? Rachel Hook walks around every day with almost no money in her wallet.
I don't use cash or checks, actually. I don't even have a checkbook or cash.
She pays for virtually everything, including her share of groceries to her roommate, through an app on her phone.
Credit and debit cards are still important cashless players, but new technologies are pushing us to abandon paper money entirely.
You could already be helping make cash obsolete if you're using one of the 37 million electronic toll tags on the road. Maybe you're using a mobile wallet like Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, or Samsung Pay, or a person-to-person payment system via Square, Pop Money, Facebook Payments in Messenger, or Venmo to pay friends in a snap. Branded apps from companies like Starbucks, Walmart, Uber, and Dunkin' Donuts make it simple for you to pay while building customer loyalty for the merchants. In the future, you may be getting rid of more than just your wallet. One day, you may not even need your phone. New cashless technologies on the horizon will let you make payments with just your fingerprint. And then there's an app that's in the works that will let you scan merchandise and pay for your purchases as you walk through the store without ever going to a cash register.
In track, everything comes full circle, though it may take time. Margaret Brennan reports on an extraordinary finish today at the White House.
It was a stand that shocked the world. American sprinters Tommy Smith and John Carlos raising their black-gloved fists in protest at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City.
Welcome to the White House.
Today, nearly 50 years later, the Olympic medalists were welcomed back into the fold by President Obama.
We're honored to have here the legendary Tommy Smith and John Carlos here today. Their powerful silent protest in the 1968 Games was controversial, but it woke folks up and created greater opportunity for those that followed.
Well, the protests have been mostly peaceful except for this. They went after a guy at the Trump who was wearing a Trump campaign hat.
The grin on Firas Jabro's face didn't last long Wednesday during his Periscope broadcast. No one appreciated his Make America Great Again hat.
I was just hit in the back of the head simply for the hat that I'm wearing. It was that simple.
At this point, word has spread about the guy in the red hat, and the crowd turns its frustrations on him.
Now I'm being assaulted, so I gotta leave.
Jabro spoke to Kogo's Jack Cronin shortly afterwards.
I never made any kind of inciting comments.
He didn't have to make any comments. Right or wrong, his hat was a short fuse. Dozens of people started chasing him.
I was abused. I was kicked.
This guy grabs Jabro's hat and punts it into the crowd.
It was my prized possession. I wore it every single day of this campaign.
New tonight, a black church in South Florida is trying to set a new tone with so many events in recent weeks seeming to pit African Americans and police against each other. One congregation wants officers to know they are appreciated.
So on behalf of Emmanuel Temple Church, this is for the officers of the city of Miami Gardens.
They just wanted to say thank you.
Well, we were thinking about the police officers. It's a lot going on.
Emmanuel Temple Church surprised Miami Gardens police with dozens of gift bags for their officers.
We have different ministries with the church, and a lot of times we try to do things to reach out to the community, let them know that we're here to support them at all times. The group it's LOL ministry. It's Love Out Loud. So this is our way of showing the officers love.
It's hard to turn on the TV and not see negative images of police officers and the people they serve. From protesters to cell phone video of police shootings, it's a strained relationship. But this group, they want to prove that it doesn't have to be.
We just wanted to let the police officers know that we do care about them. These are little care packages that they can take along with them. It has little fruit cups, Gatorade, and little snacks that they can enjoy for the day.
The gesture was a genuine surprise for the Miami Gardens Police Department and a rare thank you to the men and women who serve and protect the city daily.
Because there's so much going on, and we just wanted to make a positive impact. With all this going on in the news, we always hear negative things coming back about the officers, but we wanted to let them know that we understand they have a hard job. They go out every day to protect and to serve us, and we appreciate them.
Pastors may soon have more freedom to express their political views from the pulpit without fear of punishment from the IRS. Republican leaders are working to limit a law from the 50s called the Johnson Amendment. It basically puts a gag order on pastors in their own churches. They risk losing their tax-exempt status if they comment on political issues. So Republicans are pushing the Free Speech Fairness Act to stop the censorship.
It's time that we eliminate the targeting of the IRS. Enough is enough. And this has been going on far too long. It is absolutely unconscionable that our government would force individuals to choose between their constitutionally protected rights or their faith.
House Republicans hope the bill will restore freedom of speech and religion to churches.
Developing tonight, a group of outraged students in Spalding County say they were blocked from praying at Griffin High School.
Yeah, those students tell Fox 5 that it's been a tradition for years for students to meet and pray around the school's flagpole before class. But this morning, those students claim the school blocked their access to the pole and to their right to practice their faith.
I felt violated, a little violated.
Why?
Like my rights were being infringed as a Christian and as a student.
Austin Everett says he, his sister, and several Griffin High School classmates were not allowed to participate and pray at the pole day. It's a national event observed by students across the U.S. And the 17-year-old senior says, based on the student handbook, he thought he had followed the rules for leading the prayer Wednesday morning. No direct school staff involvement and no activity after the start of class. Still, he says the assistant principal refused to let the group step outside to these flagpoles around 7:15 a.m.
He told us that in order to do that, we would have to form an organization and have it approved through the school board.
You equip them to, as you're growing up, to be strong and to stand in what you believe in, no matter what that is. And then when they go out there and someone blocks them in such a way, it just hurts a mama's heart.
The Everetts are frustrated because students at other Spalding County schools were allowed to pray at the polls. This photo was taken at Kennedy Middle School, this one at Spalding High. Sophomore Kaylee Shelton was there. And nobody stopped you? No one said anything?
No, ma'am.
How did it feel to be a part of that?
It felt really good that other students and children could be so bold in their faith and so courageous.
A Tampa school suing the state over what it calls free speech and religious freedom violations. Cambridge Christian is battling for the right to pray over the loudspeakers at all games.
I take offense to that as a citizen in the United States, as well as the head of school at Cambridge Christian School, and as a dad.
Tim Euler's son plays on the Cambridge Christian football team. He supports the school, filing a lawsuit Tuesday saying the school's constitutional rights to religious freedom and free speech were violated.
The Florida High School Athletic Association said, hey, look, if you want to engage in religious speech in public, you can't do that here. That's illegal and it's unconstitutional and needs to change.
In December of last year, the FHSAA would not allow the team to say a prayer over the loudspeaker at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando before playing in the state championship game. The reason? It's a public venue, primarily paid for with tax dollars, and is against state guidelines.
The students have a right and a freedom under the First Amendment to exercise their right of speech, free speech in America.
Part of why the school filed this lawsuit is because it's worried about the precedent that's been set. If the state can say no prayer at the state championship game, what's to stop it from saying no prayer here at the Lancers home field, which is operated by Hillsborough County?
Technically, I mean, they're not telling you can't pray, right? Is that right?
They said you cannot pray over the loudspeaker, yes.
Over the loudspeaker, right. But you can use your own loudspeaker here, right? I mean,
and they do so, but how long does that continue to hold up? How long before the city of Tampa begins to tell them, I'm sorry, you can't pray over the loudspeaker, it's our microphone?
Dice maintains while he hopes it won't go that far, Cambridge Christian is willing to take the case to the Supreme Court if needed.
According to a draft of a 7th grade social studies curriculum from the Tennessee Board of Education, a section of studies entitled Islamic World 400 AD through 1500s was taken off the curriculum after revisions were made in the summer. Tennessee State Board of Education Executive Director Sarah Hayburn said that Islam will be taught along with all other world religions. However, she added, some of the social studies standards have been adjusted, reorganized, and simplified during the standards review process. Parents and residents in Tennessee have fought the issue for years, often claiming that Islamic indoctrination or conversion occurs when Islam is taught in schools.
Sounding the alarm about raging passengers, a group representing the airlines warns the number of unruly passengers is rising worldwide.
We've all seen cell phone videos just like this. Some passengers say they've seen other cases far less serious.
Not having enough space in the overhead bin or getting your bag out in frustration, but not really rage, but over the top a little bit, yes.
The International Air Transport Association says there were nearly 11,000 air rage incidents worldwide last year. That's 1,500 cases more than in 2014. The transport group says in most cases, unruly passengers had consumed alcohol before the flight.
I just feel very sorry for the staff that had to deal with it. But there should be a system in place that stops people like that from getting on an aircraft.
In some cases at DFW International Airport and other airports, airlines do notify police that passengers are intoxicated before they board. And some passengers we spoke with like that idea.
If you've had one too many, no. Just like you can't get behind the wheel. So.
On Thursday, the U.S. Federal Communications Commission approved rules requiring wireless carriers to provide upgraded emergency alerts. These alerts will include more information than currently allowed, such as web links and photos. This occurs after the system was used to aid in finding the suspect in September's bombings in New York and New Jersey. The alert system is generally used to send messages warning of dangerous weather or missing children, but it can be used for security threats. The FCC said the new rules will go into effect over the next 1 or 2.5 years.
The US is threatening to end cooperation with Moscow on Syria unless, quote, Russian and Syrian attacks on Aleppo stop. The US State Department also says it's looking at non-diplomatic options for responding to the situation in the war-torn country. On top of that, it warns that Russia will continue to see its troops return home in body bags.
Extremist groups will continue to exploit
the vacuums that are there in Syria, to expand their operations, which will include, no question, attacks against Russian interests, perhaps even Russian cities. And Russia will continue to send troops home in body bags.
According to Russian news agencies, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said on Thursday that Russia is outraged by the threatening tone of the latest U.S. statement on Syria, viewing it as tantamount to supporting terrorism. Ryabkov was quoted as saying, "We cannot interpret this as anything else apart from the current U.S. administration's de facto support for terrorism."
China's defense ministry has reiterated the country's stance on U.S. plans to deploy the THAAD missile defense system in South Korea. Spokesperson Yang Yujun said China means what it says when it says it will consider countermeasures against the U.S. deployment. He added that Beijing will pay close attention to relevant development and will consider taking necessary actions to protect national strategic security and maintain the current regional military balance.
Now, Beijing issues a stern warning to Tokyo after Japan announced that it may patrol alongside the U.S. in the South China Sea region. China's Defense Ministry spokesman Yang Yujun warned that any Japanese involvement in joint patrol or joint exercises in waters administered by China will be just like playing with fire. The spokesman noted that China will not stand idly in case that happens. The warning followed Tokyo's announcement this month that it would increase its engagement in the South China Sea through joint training with the U.S. Navy, exercises with regional navies, and capacity-building assistance to coastal nations.
Tensions threatened to boil over in Kashmir after India carried out what it called surgical strikes along the de facto border with Pakistan. A senior army spokesman said the operation had inflicted significant casualties on Pakistan-based militants he claimed were planning a series of attacks.
The Indian Army conducted surgical strikes last night at these launch pads. During these counter-terrorist operations, significant casualties have been caused to the terrorists and those who are trying to support them.
But the military assault prompted a furious reaction from Islamabad. While it denied any strikes had been carried out over the border, it confirmed 2 Pakistani soldiers had been killed and 9 others wounded in the crossfire along the line of control.
Now, resistance movement Hamas has urged Palestinians to hold a day of rage on Friday as Israel plans a funeral for former President Shimon Peres on the same day. Hamas has already said that Palestinians are happy at the death of Peres, calling him a criminal who had Palestinian blood on his hands. The new Day of Rage will mark the anniversary of the new popular uprising by Palestinians. The uprising began in October 2015 after Israeli authorities imposed further restrictions on Palestinians' access to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound.